Hey, that's my channel. I'm supposed to be up front. I want to touch it. Can I touch
Shotguns are great again.
No. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am joined today by Cody from Genesis Arms, who actually was going to be a second for the Mountain in Game of Thrones, but then he decided he liked shotguns better. Also, he's men of this size, the reason we invented shotguns in the first place. So Cody, why don't you introduce yourself, and I'm just going to stare at your beautiful beard.
Gentlemen, ladies, I am Cody with Genesis Arms.
The two ladies watching this?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Genesis Arms is the proprietor of the Gen 12, which is America's shotgun. It's the first professional grade magazine fed shotgun, and it is obviously in the John Wick film.
Yep.
But it is rapidly gaining steam in the commercial market because of the unique nature of form and function.
Yeah. So we wanted to bring you guys information from the horse's mouth, as it were, and explain to you why you've probably seen and why the guys at Genesis and end users everywhere are choosing to put EOTECHs on these guns. The companies are aligned on value. The quality is very much aligned, and the HWS works just really, really well as a sighting system for the shotgun and all of its capabilities. But before we get into all the cool stuff you can do with this, I'd love you to break down like how you guys pull this off, because you're really the first people to pull off this total packaging capability. So how did you do that?
So Genesis Arms, we had a mission initially, which was a simple one that seemed at the time, which was to build an AR-10 shotgun. There are other shotguns on the market that also attempt to do the same thing.
Yeah.
What makes ours unique and where our patent is different is it's on a true AR-10 lower. So I can take an SR-25, I can take an Armalite or a DPMS, and we can convert any of those lowers into a 12 gauge. That is what makes our system unique. The second thing is that the inspiration behind this was two patents. So the first is the AR-10, which everybody would notice and recognize by the form and function with the AR style lower, but it is also the AR-17. Now AR-17 is another Eugene Stoner patent when he was with Armalite, but it's a two-shot trap gun called the Golden Gun. And it is a shotgun with short recoil barrel. So we decided as a company to take the inspiration of Eugene Stoner, which is a tall order.
It is.
And has some big shoulders to stand on, even for myself. But we wanted to do that in the proper way, which would be to honor his legacy and also something that isn't just a novelty or a niche toy that we go on the weekend and shoot, but something you could put by your bedside or use in a battle space and one day become battle proven. Specifically,
especially with shotguns, there's so many different ammo types out there. What specifically have you done internally to enable people to run like the maximum number of different kinds of loads, ammo types for, again, hitting all those capabilities of shotguns?
So the unique nature of the short recoil allows us to kind of discard barrel length requirements because we don't have a direct impingement or some type of piston system to create the cycle of operation. It's a lot more. It's the same as like a 50 cal from Barrett, or it's similar to that of a pistol with like a blowback, where the barrel is going to unlock or move, and that creates the cycle of operation. So we are able to go, whether it's 18-inch barrel, the barrel's still moving and reciprocating, or we go all the way down to a 5, it is also. So we don't have to worry about or contend with dwell time.
Yeah.
And so honestly, our 5-inch gun with the suppressor from Huxworks, we're able to shoot 900 feet per second, bird shot. And I imagine there's some slugs and buckshot out there. We just haven't shot them yet, but that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And but then we can always go up to a Magnum round, which is 1,600 feet per second. And we don't have to do anything to the buffer system or the tuning of the system because the barrel's self-regulating. So it is that performance that we guarantee to the end users, a wide range of versatility of rounds and loads in a system that's going to maintain its function as you want to see it, which is semi-auto and not jam-o-matic.
Which is definitely a thing with magazine-fed shotguns.
It can be, yeah, absolutely. We honestly have spent a long time doing this to perfect it. We have 5-round capacity, 10-round capacity, and a 15-round drum.
Yeah.
So the whole system, whether you're going with a 5-inch barrel, 7-inch barrel, or 10-inch line, or an 18, you really can rest assured. I've actually got customers that have said in their emails to us, I have purchased every mag-fed shotgun on the planet. You promise yours won't be a problem. And I said, I promise.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And on top of that, sort of building off of that AR-10 pedigree, you've got the ability to accessorize this like never before with shotguns.
Absolutely.
That is just, not only is it super cool, but on the end user side, it is bringing it's never been seen before capability to people.
Yeah, the idea of, for example, when we started the embarkment on a 5-inch barrel shotgun, we knew that we didn't want to leave it unsuppressed. And so it is paired with the Huxworks suppressor. Huxworks has been a great partner because they helped obviously they build and manufacture it, but they actually listen to our guidance as to requirements. So it reduces pressures to the user by 60%. Though it's not the quietest can on the market, it is the most durable and the best performing, and it's professional level. It's titanium, it's super lightweight, it's got a crown on it for breaching. But that was really the intent, was breaching.
Right.
To reduce the pressure. Well, in testing, to try to destroy this thing, we did full auto, and we also did buckshot and slugs. We shot 2.5-ounce tungsten slugs through it, which is an insane round. And we've shot everything from steel shot, lead shot, tungsten shot, you name it, we've run it through it. Frangible rounds, even exploding rounds.
Nice.
Yeah, we've literally tried to run the gamut, and it eats everything. Not only the gun, but the suppressor keeps its function as well. But what we noticed was an improved patterning for such a short barrel when we paired it with the suppressor. And then with accuracy at distance with slugs. Because if anything that's important to understand about a shotgun, why a shotgun has value is, number one, lethality. Whether that's against a person, a door, or a car, it works 100%, or an animal. It works 100%. Now, you don't need a lot of rounds to deal in those areas, but also the versatility of different rounds that cycle through the system. So you have a variety of ammo, and then it's lethality. But where it was short was form and function. Honestly, in law enforcement, we've seen a decrease in the shotgun proliferation. It's really gone out of favor for AR-15s.
Well, it was just hard to run shotguns well. It really was.
Yeah, and the reason for that is feeding it. Back in the old Magpul days, I watched those. I was a big student of that, with Chris Costa and Travis Haley feeding that shotgun. It's hungry. But also, if you watch that, it's slow. So you're doing one round at a time, whether it's opening or feeding into the ejection port or feeding through the tube magazine. So our system completely changes that. Our reload is just reloading like an AR. So it's one motion to get you 10 rounds, 5 rounds, 15, whatever your magazine go-to is. But then also management of that ammo. If you're loading one shell at a time, then you have a placard with them stacked one at a time, or you got a big dump pouch and you're loading one at a time. In competition, they use big long tubes, or they have a big square thing like this, and they're grabbing and loading one at a time. Well, the proficiency level of an individual, listen, I'm not a shotgun guy by trade and nature. I was always an AR guy. Going to the Gen 12 into 12 gauge, it was the easiest adoption I've ever made, and it was exactly what I was familiar with and comfortable with.
Well, and especially with the professional end user side of the house, you've got so many different jobs and skills, and shooting is only one part of it, but when it matters a lot. And so having to make that decision between training time, you've essentially taken that away, because now you've got as close to a one-to-one comparison for all of your rifle work, all your reloads, all that dry fire, all that range time is translating over way more than what we used to see with having to do all the different, double loads, quad loads, singles, all that stuff. It's just not, it doesn't really apply anymore.
No, and the other thing that's unique, and you mentioned it, is a familiarity. So one of the things that we noticed is that when we did like a 50-yard zero, for example, with slugs, and then I take the platform, the Gen 12, and I go to 5 yards, and I do an ocular cavity shot. Well, what we found was, based on the height mount of your optic, it was the same hold points as an AR-15. So
nice.
Now you don't have to retrain a new sight hold or any of those type of things. You literally mount everything up, get your zero, and then the gun feels like an AR. Now my sight
you're
And the
literally
sight
running
picture, it's all the same.
Same picture, sight picture, same optics, same height over bore, all of that again.
And it all translates to the same. So we have what I like to refer to as adoption. And so we have a fast adoption rate with minimal training.
Yeah.
And honestly, most of the demos, I say, hey, have you ever shot an AR-15? And they're like, yes. Okay, go ahead and load this magazine. That's the end of the conversation. So safeties, triggers, those are all universal in the market space. So as long as, if you prefer Geisley or Hyperfire, or you have a Radiant safety selector or Geisley or whatever your nature is, you prefer, you can swap those components out. Now, when it comes to the upper, that's all proprietary.
Sure.
So don't be swapping stuff out in there.
But it allows guys to do tactical dress up, which is what we're all about anyway.
And actually, circling back to the earlier comment is the form and function. So when we first set out and we learned about the capability of buckshot and the accuracy with slugs, accuracy with slugs proved accurate out to 100 and beyond.
Yeah.
So 10-inch barrels, we have customers doing 120, 150 yards with 1,600 feet per second or 1,300 feet per second slugs. I've done on the 5-inch barrel with the suppressor easily 100 yards. And I've had, during demonstrations, it been repeated multiple times. Well, if we think about the traditional roles of shotguns, they really fall into niche categories. And that's really due to the shotgun's, form and function of itself.
Yeah.
If you want to build a short shotgun, what do you end up with? Less
ammo.
Less ammo. So you want a breaching shotgun, you got 3 rounds.
Right.
It gets stowed on your body, right? So generally a breacher breaches the door, they get that out of the way, and they bring up capacity, whatever that primary weapon system is. So I started to ask the question, why? Why do we get rid of the shotgun? Why is that the TTP? Could we not breach and enter with a shotgun? Well, traditional shotguns,
not really.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense because even after even if you have, say, 8 to 10 rounds on it with an extended tube, once you get through that door, you're still single loading and plussing up.
Right.
Versus a Gen 12, you can have 15 rounds on the gun or 10 rounds on the gun, and even if you had to go through that door after breach and you had to plus up with a tactical reload, it's as easy as drawing a mag, inserting the full mag, putting it back in the pouch, and you're ready to go. There's no waiting or any other tactical lull, so to speak. So it really lends itself to optimization. Well, then I was like, how cool would it be to shoot slugs at night?
Super cool.
So we got a suppressed shotgun. So it's first on the planet. Throw on night vision and an OGL, and you are the first legitimate night fighting shotgun on the planet. And it is a lot of fun, by the way.
I believe you, and I cannot wait. Are you guys seeing that level of adoption? I mean, is there some institutional inertia that you're trying to overcome there where guys are essentially now you could reassign this as a primary to one of the guys on the team, and they're now serving multiple roles? If they say you give it to the breacher and he's got his mechanical explosive and ballistic breaching options all in one guy, but he's not having to carry another weapon system. Are you seeing that level of adoption, or are we still getting some resistance there from like the law enforcement market on that kind of stuff?
So we were federally adopted in the U.S. for a breaching shotgun, and that is our MBS line, our modern breaching shotgun. It's an AOW, so it is just a QD point on the back, and it's used in the same tactics and procedures that we just talked about, where it's stowed on the body. And then they use a primary. The desire was to not change TTPs. The conversation was had. Now, I will say, in some organizations, those TTPs are more easily changed.
Sure.
The conversation is definitely being had. And there are law enforcement agencies who have actually come to us and said, I want to have a dedicated breaching shotgun, which will also be dual purpose. And so that comes down to another conversation of ammunition. So in law enforcement specifically, there's liability, right? And so the part of liability that an agency wants to avoid in injuring an innocent person. They want to avoid that, so they're liable if they do by accident. So if you breach and you have a concrete floor, for example, and you just use buckshot, once you breach, it goes into the room, hits the floor, and it goes everywhere. So that they want is a round, which is generally some type of frangible munitions, and you can find these on the internet if you're, if anybody's curious about this. But it's a, it's going to hit the door or the object you're attempting to breach, and it's going to completely fall apart. So there's not going to have this ricochet effect. Now, the problem with those rounds is that historically, they do not perform in open air. So because they're usually some type of compressed powder, and they end up falling apart in the air as it's going downrange.
And to be honest, we ran across that in Afghanistan where after some fairly hard abuse, they were actually coming apart and messing up the gun in the barrel at sometimes, especially with other manufacturers' semi-auto guns, where, you know, after 3 months of bumping around on your body, that round has lost its integrity prior to being discharged. And we had some issues there where you're failing to breach or gumming up your gun, and that's less, we'll call that suboptimal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not running into any of that here.
Yeah.
And you're able to carry that kind of ammunition in a magazine, which is an extra layer of protection. Then, like you said, we just put it in a pouch, and it's just bumping around. And,
Yes.
you know, that's probably not optimal, but
No.
again,
It's a good highlight to a use case of your own experiences when you have holes in the barrel to run a piston or some type of gas, and there's powder going down your barrel. But also, the reality is that with all shot shell, it's all inherently dirty.
Sure.
It's plastic and friction and heat, and that all got to go somewhere. And so if there's a gas system, you're going to end up with fouling. So ultimately, you know, I didn't get to coin this, but the Gen 12 is the ultimate shotgun, and now we fashion it as America's shotgun because we are American made.
Yeah.
We're based out of Idaho. Myself and you know, everybody in the company is a proud American, and so we are very you know, strong supporters of the Second Amendment, and we are very excited for, you know, the customer base that we have. They are the greatest, and we wouldn't be able to do it without them.
that is awesome, man. All right, so other than breaching, what use cases are you guys seeing? Did you envision? And how, you know, how does all that work with the different guns we're seeing here on the table?
So there's the main roles of any shotgun usually comes under breaching, which we talked about.
Right.
Some type of defense or patrol or combat style shotgun, and then guns to do things in the sky. So hunters, or as the market space has changed for warfare, counter UAS, and how do you defeat drones? So, you know, all of our systems are smooth bore, and we had to kind of adopt to the latter of those for counter UAS, and also for sporting purposes. We wanted to be able to offer adaptability to our system, so a user could have it by their nightstand as a home defense shotgun, smooth bore, maybe suppressed, and outfitted for that, but then quickly adapt that to going out hunting.
Nice.
So what we have is our SP line, sporting purpose line. And so this is actually on a 10-inch barreled SBS. So same form and function as all of our other Gen 12s. The barrel is inside the handguard, and it is moving independent of the muzzle.
Okay.
So all of our muzzle devices, including our suppressors, are actually mounted to the handguard. And inside of the barrel, inside of the handguard, the barrel sits in here, and then when it fires, the barrel moves back and moves back forward. And so what that allows for is, when you put a suppressor on here, you don't need a booster, because moving barrels would require a booster.
Right.
And also it allows to have contact against the muzzle and not affect reliability.
Nice.
So with a simple attachment here, we're able to have a thread-on device that is removable. And what you'll see back here is this is what we call our GA threads, Genesis Arms threads. Okay. So it is proprietary to us. It is featured on our John Wick series line of shotguns as well. And then there's a choke kit here. This is a Remington choke, so you can get a full line of Remington chokes and swap those in and out as you see fit. Or you can just remove this entirely. Like I said, you can put a suppressor or just put a muzzle device on it, and now you have your home defense shotgun. So it allows for things to be opened up. Now, we have seen some pretty incredible patterning, even out of our shorter barrels, anywhere between 10-inch barrel. We have 3 major barrels that we're experimenting with, which would be 10, 13, and 14. And 70 yards against a Class 1 or Class 2 drone, we seem to have good enough pattern density and muzzle velocity to affect positively against those targets.
Wow.
At 70 to 80 yards.
Okay.
So we're excited to have this. This is a newer item for our lineup. If it's not on the website, it will be soon.
Depending on when this releases.
But we did showcase it at SHOT Show, and it is being fielded currently as a sample for counter UAS.
And something we've been messing with for a few years, and I imagine you guys have as well, is the reticle in the HWS, the classic reticle. We've seen pretty decent consistency on being able to judge patterning off of that. Are you guys seeing that with the chokes as well?
Yes, and actually some of the biggest challenge with anybody shooting into the sky, any moving objects, it's like the first time you shoot something moving on the ground. You know, like on the ground, they'll be tracking, then they stop and they pull the trigger.
Right.
Well, you got to stay with follow through.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a heads-up display.
Yeah.
Especially the ring and the dot. So what happens is it allows, as the object is tracking, whether it's trap or skeet, the shooter is able to trap the object within a halo, and then the dot, whether it's above or below, in front or behind, based on the movement of the object, it gives it more information to the user to get those first round impacts.
Yeah.
And we actually were at a skeet range and we had a bunch of new shooters, and it was the first time that myself had even shot skeet. Nice. And we were shooting 10 round mags, 10 for 10. People had never shot before, and it was largely due to the fact of the reticle and understanding how the clay pigeon was flying. So it's a huge advantage. And then obviously for myself, I really like the EXPS 3-1 for more home defense, but I've also been very effective with that, just understanding, basically using that 68-minute ring earlier to train myself where the dot needs to be.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to training with, honestly, like with any primary, if you're running a single dot optic, it's just learning your holds.
Yes.
It's putting the time in the range.
Yeah.
But now, again, you've got so much more of a one-to-one application for what probably people have done for years with their rifles anyway.
Yep. Yeah. However, in closing on that conversation, the halo is a clear advantage, especially when you have, let's say, newer shooters or people that are just learning this for the first time. It really is kind of a cheat code to get those first round impacts.
Well, and something that, I would guess, though I haven't gotten to do it yet, is being able to identify multiple ammunition types and start basically dialing that in on the reticle, different ammunition types, different use cases, and just building that into your training.
Yes.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as distance goes out, that ring will be much more accurate, especially for striking against a drone or anything else flying, balloons for that matter.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the last one, which unfortunately I don't have here on the table, is our less lethal.
Yeah.
So less lethal is law enforcement only, so we don't sell it to the public, but it's a professional tool.
Yeah.
So it is due to the fact that ammo is restricted. So it's very hard to find beanbag rounds that are commercially available. In fact, I'm pretty positive there are none.
Yeah.
So there are rounds like the Byrna and stuff like that, but those aren't widely adopted by law enforcement because they just lack some of the kinetic energy that they would require to get more positive results consistently. The rounds that are less lethal are built around is the combined systems, Super Sock, and the Safariland DefTech stabilized rounds when they're both beanbags. So that's all it shoots. But it gives huge benefit to law enforcement agencies because you have ammo management, ammo capacity, and you can just imagine if Antifa started again, or anybody else got enthusiastic with riots, having a less lethal shotgun on the front line, or a series of those with, say, 70 rounds on a kit plus a backpack full, you could disperse roughly 1,000 rounds in about 6 minutes.
Yeah, that
per
would,
guy. No,
I would say that provide.
I don't know if that's exactly accurate.
That would help to provide appropriate incentives to people to maybe do something different.
Yeah, we call that curbing someone's enthusiasm.
Correct.
So the other thing that's really unique about it is it's the first ever to do that. We're the first company to provide a semi-automatic less lethal shotgun, just like we're the first company in 12 gauge to provide a 5-inch barrel suppressed.
Yeah.
And I know we're maybe restricted a little bit on this, but our company is also, we also manufacture fully automatic shotguns. So if you were to just search fully automatic shotguns in Google, the only one that really comes up is an AA-12 and a Sega or Vepr.
Yeah.
And we destroy in performance for controllability and everything else and rate of fire against all of those as competitors. And we do it all the time on our range days. Like we have the longest lines because everybody has to get in line to shoot John Wick's full auto shotgun.
You can't not do it.
Yeah, you can't.
No, absolutely. So sort of, I mean, looking at this build right here, sort of if you want to go sort of tip to butt on this one and sort of talk about what's on it, but also how each of these different accessories can help accentuate or improve the capabilities that we already talked about, with the platform.
Absolutely. Okay, so first we'll start with the muzzle. The muzzle is kind of hidden back here behind the burn-proof suppressor cover, but this is the Huxworks Ventum 12K, 12 gauge suppressor, full titanium. It's under a pound in weight, no ammo restrictions and no rate of fire restrictions.
Nice.
Again, this one's outfitted as a nighttime fighter. So we have a white light, as well as a OGL here for your laser system. And then it's on the GBRS Hydra mount, so you can get your cheek away from the PDW style stock that we have. This is also proprietary to us. And then you'd be able to passively aim when looking through your mono or binoculars. So again, 5-inch Gen 12. This is our PDS base. We got it Cerakoted here in this nice kind of tan color. V5 grip, radiant safety selector, rail scales, vertical grip, Unity button here for the OGL, another rail scale panel, and then the GBRS second best sling. One of my favorite slings.
Yeah, that is awesome. And you know, like we talked about, you could, I mean, that's really set up to be a primary, but again, with ammo management, breaching, addressing a variety of things in the sky, slugs, all of that, you have all the capability right there.
You do. Now, there's probably some limitations on how far you can actually engage something in the sky with a 5-inch barrel suppressed, but depending on ammo and ammo development, you have some capability there. With some TSS, super shot, even in this platform, 40 to 50 yards has been acceptable to defeat, again, objects in the sky. So we do take this to the clay range, so it's a lot of fun.
That is very awesome. I know these are actual production models, so developing a drum mag for a shotgun is, I imagine, like a whole thing. You want to talk us through this process?
I'd rather not.
It's all right. We can trauma bond over magazine design.
So last year in 24, we launched our pre-order sale with anticipation of this launching in August.
How'd that go?
It didn't go well. So full disclosure. However, we weren't happy. Now, to standards of drum mags, that drum mag was acceptable. Okay, for a shotgun. However, it was not acceptable to the Gen 12 in its performance, and so it would reflect poorly on not only our brand, but also the performance of the gun. So we took the time to figure out how to solve the issue. Took longer than we wanted, but when you talk about shot shells, there's no SAMI spec. And when I say that, there is a SAMI spec, but it is so broad, you know, whether it's low brass or high brass, sometimes it's brass, it's not even brass, it's steel. You know, so I'm even seeing aluminum and plastic, like fully plastic injection molded cases. So it's so broad. We just had to take a little extra time to, fine tune the feeding on the system, which an initial test that we got out of the first batch of production, we are under 2% failure on the drum mag. So we're actually closer to 1%.
Wow.
Somewhere there. Now, time will tell where that actually ends up, but that's impressive for a drum mag. That's what we get out of our stick mags. So we're very happy that it is shipping. Our customers are happy that it's shipping. And it is a welcome addition to the magazine suite. So then you can have 5, 10, and 15 round capacity. And
guys, one of the things to keep in mind when you're talking about magazines is there is a huge amount of engineering and like you were just saying, considerations that go into all the geometries of the round, and just the way everything is seated with bullet depth and case size and neck and shoulder and all this stuff. It goes really, really deep. And so people will often look at a magazine and be like, it's a box. Like, how hard is that? It's actually really, really hard. A good channel is Forgotten Weapons. Ian does a good job breaking down some magazine design history and some guns that were great, but the magazine failed and it never launched the gun because of it. So to say that this is an integral part of a weapon system is to say almost nothing at all. And so you guys taking the time and putting the effort into design this well, where you trust me to hold it, it's a statement to your dedication to quality and making sure it works. Because if the mag doesn't work, the gun's not going to work. And so I would encourage you guys to maybe educate yourselves a little bit more on everything that goes into a mag design, because it's considerable. And the fact that you guys undertook that process from an engineering standpoint is impressive. Because a lot of companies, like, they're just not going to do that.
Yeah, rim shells were never designed to be stacked on top of each other. You know, they were designed to be in line in a tube, a lot like a 22 LR.
Right.
So it has been a challenge, but honestly, we've been graced and blessed with some solutions, and we're very happy to share it with everybody.
All right, so we covered the design, use cases, how they've been adopted. But if people are seeing this and they totally just want to go ahead and buy one, because you absolutely do right now, your bank account will love you. What's the availability looking like for these?
So availability is the best it's ever been.
Awesome.
Because of the great customer support and demand that was driven out of last year, we've increased production. So we are shipping within 10 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Hopefully it stays that way. And but if you're looking for the ultimate home defense shotgun, you can get any of our guns. So anything we sell professionally, we also sell commercially, with the exception of less lethal. So if you're looking for a 5-inch suppressed PDS, a 7-inch, a 10-inch, the John Wick, our newly released Ronin Tactics PDS, an SP line or 18-inch or a competition shotgun, we literally have a whole suite, and you can customize them. So paint, camo, whatever you want.
The HWS you're totally going to put on it?
You should.
You should.
It's a must. So everything's available, magazines, everything's available on the website, genesisarms.com, and availability, like I said, it's right now.
Right now. Great. Then I'll take this right now. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Train hard, live free. Thank you for watching. See you later. Jesus, you are strong. Here. Does this shotgun make my butt look big? Shotgun,
Might sleep outside.
Oh, Jesus.